Here's how I turn this into... Why is it so big? Here's how I turn this into... Oh. You guys probably recognize this game. It's basically the great-great-great-grandfather of all games. This is how my game looked at first, but this is too plain. This thing isn't grabbing anyone's attention, so what if I polish it and add some chaos? Before I even get serious with this project, I just mess around with the gamemaker's room editor here because I was like 1 week into learning gamemaker. The overall mandatory must-have mechanics worked, but I got bored, so yeah, I literally put these footages at the beginning of the video just to catch your attention. I decided to polish the look of the game by replacing the score font, pedal, and the ball to make it look modern. And to accommodate my and probably your non-existent attention span, I mean, this still looks plain, but we'll fix it. Now let's go back in time for a bit. Back then, the classics were way too peaceful. A hit is just a hit. Like, dude, where's the fun in that? I want the players to sweat. I believe a little bit of thrill in your life is good, as long as it doesn't cause a heart attack. Here's how the scoring works. If you hit it from the edge, you will get 11 to 15 points. Yeah, it's random to make your life more interesting. But if you hit the ball from the dead center, you'll get only 6 points. I mean, it's safer, so it pays less. But don't chase the edge too hard either. Missing the ball while trying to be stylish feels worse than losing normally. And to be honest, this is very me. Anyways, every time the ball bounces against the barrier, you know that top and bottom gradient lines, you get 4 points. If you score, you will get 75 points. But those are just the base numbers. All of those scores will be multiplied by a multiplier which depends on the ball speed. Well, the ball increases its speed by 0.1 every time it bounces against the paddle. But hypothetically, if a round lasted forever, the game would be unplayable. So I added a speed cap. So the longer the round gets, the more score you and your opponent will get. But the game will be more intense and dangerous as well, just like a long-lasting argument between people. There's still a standard scoring system if you prefer peace, but I highly recommend dynamic scoring if you want chaos. Well, for this game only. First, I made the value changes actually work. But if I just display it in raw value, seeing the numbers from like 200 to 275 instantly feels choppy. So I ease it out smoothly. Next, the score pop-ups. I made the displayed number as the amount of points you just get from that event. At first, I just have a fixed coloring rule. Wall bounces are gray, paddle bounces are cyan, and edge hits yellow. That's all. But getting an edge hit and all it gives you is a number, it's lame. And it doesn't feel satisfying. Because of that, I want to add particles. But GameMaker's built-in particle system I'm not emotionally prepared for that, so I decided to treat each particle as their own objects. Well, I didn't expect it to be useful outside exams, but here we are. X speed, Y speed, gravity, and time. Alright, it looks like biscuit crumbs. To fix this, I fixed the sprites by unsqueezing the particles and making them rotate a lot more by expanding the rotation range. I finally managed to get it right, and instead of having fixed colors, I made the color of the particles and the pop-up matches the battle color to avoid confusion between player colors. Oh yeah, and also a circle. And 3 more tiny particles, because why not? I also decided to put edge combos that gives you extra points. The way the extra points work is just the amount of combos you have multiplied by the speed multiplier. Yeah, that's all. If you're good at the game, this is a blessing, otherwise this can be a poisonous temptation. So technically, yeah, I'm making myself vulnerable. Look, I know having each particle as their own object is terrible for performance, but if it works, it works.
You mismatched cash piano, I'll tear you to pieces!
I figured that the score text was too static. They didn't even look like they cared. So I make it wobble on the y-axis whenever the value increases. It makes the numbers look like they're panicking, kind of like how people react when the stock market goes up. So I'm actually gonna change the texture of the ball and pedal again. The reason is because the way I color the old one is by using gamemaker's image blend, which is basically just giving them tint. That's why the edges look muddy, just like poop. And here's the new 6. Yeah, I made a dedicated sprite sheet for each individual color. Now they look vibrant and nice, plus they definitely don't look like feet. Something feels missing though, and you guessed it. What about the pop-up if the player scores? This is honestly tricky because the solution is also tricky. To be honest, this problem has been unsolved for the past 2 months because I keep procrastinating. And of course, school. My first 2 ideas is just basically doing something with the usual pop-up I have, circle and a number, but I make it obese. My third idea is snowballs, which is a horrible idea. So eventually, I decided to make the pop-up bigger, but not as obese as my first few ideas. The color is gonna be the player whose side the one that scores. First, I work on the base movement. After staring at this for a while, I hate this. This polygon-like movement just doesn't work. It's hard to determine which side does this pop-up belong to if you don't look at it until the end. So I decided to make a curve-like movement instead and apply the color. You may also notice that the score is being added after this pop-up patches the score HUD. It just looked better that way. I don't know how to explain. I also want to add an expanding ring to it. It adds a nice touch in my opinion. But in gamemaker, there's no built-in function that allows you to draw a circle with a specific width. So I have to make my own script. Luckily, the logic is pretty simple. First, I create a tiny surface and set it as a draw target. Draw a solid colored circle, switch to BM subtract, and draw a white circle on top. Because BM subtract treats white like an eraser, it makes a hole right through the center, leaving a perfect ring. Because the blend mode is in subtract, therefore it subtract whatever is below it in this specific surface. Then I reset the target and blend mode so that the rest of the game doesn't break. Lastly, free the surface so your devices won't fry. So that the memory doesn't stack up and fry your device. Why make a small surface for this, you ask? Well, you don't want to subtract everything below that circle and spawn a black hole. So the expanding ring is done. And of course, object particles.
You look convoluted!
Yeah, I think they're mad because I kept using objects for its particle instead of using the particle system. Whatever, I ain't doing that for now. If there's more than 2 players, if you score, the pop-up will actually pulse between those 2 winning player colors. If it's just 1 player, well, no color pulsing. Anyways, here's a gameplay showcase. I don't think it's as plain as before, right? No? If you made it this far, thank you for staying in the video until the end. If you wanna see more on how the development of this game goes, see that very beautiful subscribe button. Could you click it for me? Please. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a good day.